Hi, everyone. This is Krista Moore with The Krista Moore Show. Thanks for joining us today. This show is brought to you as a new way to learn as I interview industry experts and thought leaders on subjects that are important to your health, your wellness, and your business success. Today's guest is a little bit different than what we normally have on the show because I have so many clients and friends and colleagues that are kind of in this mind space of, gosh, I'm looking for more meaning and purpose, or what can I do that I love and enjoy and kind of give back to the world. Since many of you are business owners and sales executives, I'm thinking you might also be kind of in that same mindfulness and around purpose and meaning. So I'm thrilled to have a friend of mine and the philanthropist for sure, and award-winning entrepreneur, Stephanie Carter. Stephanie, I'd like to welcome you to the show today. This is the second time that we've had Stephanie on the show. And the reason that I really wanted to have you back is I'm so excited about your new nonprofit and the passion that you're putting into that I want the audience to hear more about that and just understand how to kind of transition a little bit from, doesn't always have to be business. We can give back and for the good. So thanks so much for what you're doing. And I would love for you to give an introduction to our group. Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely, thank you. So my name is Stephanie Carter, as you mentioned, and I am the founder and owner of Wallaroo Hat Company, which is a sun protective hat company located in Boulder, Colorado. And I have been running this business now for just about 2 decades, just over 20 years. And we sell, manufacture, and design sun protective hats that we sell into lots of retail stores all around the country and the United States, and also internationally, with a big focus on skin cancer protection and prevention and education.
Mm-hmm. And that's where we first met. So many of my community know that I had skin cancer, that I'm also the hat lady, and I'm a big fan of Wallaroo hats. Actually, we visited your plant and I got to meet some of your folks and your distribution. So that was pretty cool. And
yeah,
Boulder's a cool place.
Definitely very hot and sunny, and need to wear hats here because we've got a very high elevation.
That's right. And something that I wanted to really dive into today is the nonprofit PridePads Africa that you are involved in. And I want to just bring awareness of what you're doing to the community and just kind of give a good feel-good story where I think we all could use that about now. So tell us a little bit more about PridePads.
So about 4 years ago, I was introduced to this gentleman named Ajume Wingo, who is a professor of philosophy here in Boulder at the University of Colorado. And he was working on a project in Ghana, Africa, to try and bring biodegradable, sustainable sanitary pads to rural and underprivileged areas in Ghana. And it sort of resonated with me because I have a teenage daughter, and I very much appreciate the fact that there are so many things that we are privileged to have in the United States that people in developing nations are not actually able to have access to. Mm-hmm. And one of those things is sanitary pads. So there tend to be huge inequities in gender and inequality. There tend to be a lot of taboos and stigma around menstruation. And it was something that I just felt needed to be addressed, and I automatically and felt like I wanted to be a part of this. And so we took a trip 3 years ago, my daughter, another friend of mine and her daughter, and another man and his daughter, and we all went to Ghana to visit the plant or the location in Ghana where they were actually manufacturing these pads. And after that trip, I came back sort of motivated, trying to think about how we might start our own project, and wanted to leverage the fact that Ajume Wingo, who is the professor I mentioned, was from Cameroon. And he actually happens to be a prince from a particular region called the Nuso region in Cameroon. And he is just a very inspiring person. People meet him and they want to be involved. It's kind of unusual to have a man involved in this, but he had an experience.
I remember reading online and watching a video about his experience and
Yeah,
how that got him curious about, all of this. Like you said, as
yeah.
a man, you wouldn't think it would be something that they would really get their arms around, so to speak. But tell me his story, if you would.
So he was traveling on a bus in his kingdom, and normally he rides in a car. He doesn't not necessarily travel, on public transportation, but happened to be on a bus. And in fact, the bus stopped at a stop that was not a normal stop for the bus. And he noticed that the women all filed off of the bus, and this young girl was with them, and they kind of circled up around her and started shaming her and asking her why she was traveling on the bus during this time and how dare she travel and doesn't she have a mother and she should be ashamed of herself. And he realized all of a sudden that she had just gotten her period for the very first time. And he comes from a matrilineal kingdom, or queendom actually, in Cameroon. So he has a very strong sense of, needing to really help women to be raised up and lift up their sort of societal status. And so
Yes.
he felt very much like this girl was being disempowered, and explained to these women that she shouldn't be shamed, and kind of comforted this young girl and gave her some paper towels and asked her to go and take care of herself. And the women on the bus were all astounded that a man would actually take this upon himself. So
Yeah.
I think he felt like he wanted to make sure that that would never happen again, and sort of took this on as his own personal mission. So that's
And
what
something I learned as I was kind of studying this mission and what the intention is and the problems that they actually are solving are really, really important and empowering women. And you talked about this shaming kind of aspect. Um, I learned as I was learning more about PridePads how culturally um, these young women are impacted and affected by puberty. And
yeah.
at that time in their life can be life altering and kind of send them in different directions. And how being able to care for themselves and to be empowered in this way at a young age can change their life forever.
Yeah.
I just was,
And I think,
yeah, and it was that message that I
yeah.
really loved. And I wanted to make sure that we shared that because we kind of get in our own little bubble, we get in our own little world and our problems seem like big problems, but not the case.
Yeah. So one of the things that I first learned when I started studying this problem was that 60% of girls in rural Africa actually stop going to school when they menstruate. When they begin their periods, they just stop going to school because they don't have sanitary products to allow them to stay in school. And unfortunately, that gender inequality then leads to sex trafficking of these young girls. It leads to child marriage. It leads to teenage pregnancy. And a lot of times the parents just can't be bothered to continue to have the girls in school. So they would rather marry a young child off to their neighbor. Maybe there's a 40-year-old man, he's marrying a 13-year-old girl. And you can appreciate and that to us sounds like an unbelievable type of thing to happen, but it's very commonplace in many developing countries, and not just in Africa, but countries all around the world, including India and Nepal. So I felt like the educational component was huge, because in order to empower women, they need to be educated and they need to be able to receive the same
Sure.
type of
It's
education.
almost like you really got down to a root cause of a potential influencer cause that you could kind of take care of, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's something that, as you said, you can wrap your arms around. And when you talk to this project about women, they inevitably would like to be involved, because everybody understands the plight of young girls and how important they are. I think Michelle Obama once said, no country can ever truly flourish when it stifles the potential of 50% of its population. And it's so true that if we can lift up these young women and help them to become contributing members of society, so they can become lawyers and doctors and entrepreneurs, and they can become teachers, then we will break this cycle of poverty and stigma that surrounds this, and they will be able to get educated. And for me, as a mother of a daughter, I appreciate how difficult and how important it is for us to help those who are less fortunate than us around the world. So I do have a video I would like to share, if I
Yeah, I
may.
thought the video would be great. And because another outcome of nonprofit is that you're employing women to make these biodegradable sanitary pads. So there you're also empowering women that maybe normally, wouldn't be entrepreneurs themselves or be actually working. So
exactly. And that's been a huge component of this. It's a huge component of what we're doing is women empowerment. And so not only giving the girls the pads to keep them in school, but providing jobs to these women in these villages and these rural towns where they haven't had those opportunities. And that's been so amazing for us to see.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm going to give you permission to share your screen because I know you have the video there, and that would be great. So give me a moment. And there you go.
Okay, fantastic. Let me make sure I can just find the video, which I had all queued up, and now it's disappeared, of course. Isn't that just the way it goes?
Sure, that's the way it works.
Yeah, just a second.
You got it.
Okay. I'm going to show my screen. Well, it seems to have disappeared, which is quite unusual. Well, here's a picture of the women. I will just share this with you quickly. These are the women that we are actually employing right now in Cameroon. And this is Ajume Wingo, who is the founder, one of our co-founders. And then this gentleman here with the red hair is named Derek Gerlight, and he actually graduated from university here in Colorado and moved to Cameroon for a year to go and run this project for us. So quite an inspiring young man and most impressive, I have to say.
That's great. And I have some pictures here as well. So I'll go ahead and
maybe.
Yeah,
that would be great.
To find that.
I will find that. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's all right. This I believe was from your last trip there. Is that your daughter?
That is, yeah, that's Celeste, and she just turned 19.
Oh, that's awesome. And then here's pictures of the actual facility where these are being made.
Exactly.
And this photo here really resonated with me. When I saw it, it was part of kind of the marketing for PridePads, but there was just something in their faces that just really touched my heart. And I don't know if it was the kind of the generational, the mother-daughter connectivity here, but I just feel like this is not just empowering young women, but also all women in that area.
Yes, I agree. And I think it is nice because we are able to now sort of educate the mothers and their generation also about menstruation and how important it is for them to keep their girls in school. And so they will give opportunities to their girls that they probably didn't have themselves. But we're finding that people are actually really interested in making that, sort of paradigm shift. And so that's been very exciting. Okay, so here we go. I am ready to go with this video, and we'll just see. You all can see my screen now.
This is Africa. There's a problem here, a problem not many people want to talk about.
Very few women work and earn a salary. The woman depends on either her father or her husband for almost everything she needs.
A pivotal point in any young girl's life is when they reach the age of menstruation, and shortly after, when their mom hands them their first box of pads. That doesn't happen here.
You find blood stains on their uniforms. Why? Because their mothers cannot provide their sanitary towels. They have to go to their fathers, and they are not able to talk to their fathers.
Without access to sanitary pads and basic menstrual health education, girls in Africa are forced to leave school with their futures bleak.
There are very few fathers who want to invest in their daughters' education, who wants to provide for their daughters. So we find it difficult to get the basic things we need.
As a result, girls are exposed to child marriage, teen pregnancy, rape, and sex trafficking. The barriers are real, but so are the solutions.
The idea of providing high quality sanitary pads to the girls in the rural areas, biodegradable and affordable and accessible, is the ultimate goal of this, and to create a new generation of free women for Africa.
PridePads will really come to salvage a lot of bad situations. It's what women need, and this will really help them.
Our goal? Turn oppression into opportunity.
This is the new facility that we'll be working at. Hopefully, we're going to outfit it to have all the machine production in here, as well as storage for the materials and the finished product.
By employing local women to produce biodegradable sanitary pads at our facility in Cameroon and distributing them throughout the region, we hope to empower girls to choose their future.
I believe that the future of Africa lies in the hands of these girls.
We envision a world where menstrual health is a basic human right, a right no woman should think twice about.
PridePads is a very good step towards empowering the woman. It's a good way to make her comfortable, to rebuild her self-confidence.
Help us be a part of that vision.
I'm so glad you found that video and could share that, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was a labor of love, that is for sure.
Well, something that he said that I just loved was, let me just make myself a presenter again. Something that he said that I really, really loved was that he believed, like this was like emphatic, right? I believe that the future of Africa lies in the hands of those girls.
Yes, exactly.
That's a strong statement, yeah.
And I feel that for me is why this project is so important, because I can really relate to empowering women and creating opportunities for them. And yeah, like in this picture, I mean, you just get it. So I have actually a sample. This is the PridePads actual pads that we are manufacturing now. So we have made our bags to hold the pads out of biodegradable material. So it's got some cornstarch components, so it's completely biodegradable, so it can be buried, along with the sanitary pads, which are made out of a paper pulp and can also be buried so that the girls don't have issues with, you know, how they dispose of them and worrying about creating more sort of environmental issues. So, yes. You know, it's been when we started the project in Ghana, one of the things they were doing, they were using banana and plantain fiber as part of the sanitary pads. And we haven't been able to quite do that on the project in Cameroon yet, but that is one of our hopes, future plans, that we'll be able to do that, along with providing these girls with underpants. We would like to do something called Pride Panties and give them little underwear with colorful dots or different colors so that they can, you know, have something that's a little bit better for putting their pads in.
Yes.
And, you know, as the project grows, we just have recognized that there's a need to bring this kind of project to, you know, to all different places around Africa.
Well, I had a question on that because the logo and the branding is PridePads, and then you've been talking about PridePads Africa, and I'm wondering if there's more to come. What can we expect in the future?
Well, I think as long as I'm still being the CEO and running Wallaroo, I don't have time to expand this to other countries. Obviously, that would be our ultimate goal, would be to take this into different places around the world. And certainly when I retire someday, I think I would really like to take this project on with more gay abandon, because there's certainly a lot of work to be done. And I know that, you know, I have the energy to do it. So it's just a matter of time, I think, before we actually continue to grow.
Yeah, and I just want to thank you again for the time that you've put into this project and also what you're doing to create the awareness. I want to talk about your entrepreneurship journey for a moment, because we have a lot of small business owners that tune into our show. And you've really kind of formed your company around another cause, you know, in terms of educating about sun protection. You were kind of a pioneer in the sun protection kind of clothes and hats world. And I'd like to just hear a little bit about that and that cause and what kind of drives you every day for Wallaroo.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So when I started Wallaroo back in 1999, there really weren't any companies that were doing sun protection, sort of UPF clothing, which stands for ultraviolet protection. And Australia was much, much more ahead of the curve than the United States. And so one of the things that I felt really eager to do was bring this sun protection awareness campaign to the United States. So all of our products, when we initially started, had an ultraviolet protection rating of 50 plus. So that means you're getting somewhat like 98% UV blockage, which is great. Obviously, you still have to protect yourself from any kind of other reflected sunlight that comes off of the pavement or the water or the snow or wherever you happen to be hiking. It's good to have, you know, sun protection habits. But in general, we really were the pioneers of that sun protection industry. And I found something that I was passionate about. I had been an attorney practicing law for 8 years before I started Wallaroo, and this opportunity just presented itself, and somehow it has taken on a life of its own and has become a cause much bigger than myself, which has been really exciting.
Well, and just to kind of explain that a little bit, you're doing a whole lot more than just selling hats. I mean, you do an awful lot of work with the Skin Cancer Foundation and awareness, as well as a lot of educational components to that.
Yeah. So when we, you know, initially started, there weren't a lot of opportunities or resources to work with people, but as skin cancer has continued to grow in the United States, it's become the #1 fastest growing type of cancer. A lot of, you know, different organizations have been, you know, enabled, and their opportunities to work with them became greater. So we do work with the Skin Cancer Foundation. Actually, we have their seal of approval for a lot of our products. We work with the Colorado Melanoma Foundation. They have a sun bus that travels around to different communities, and community members can actually get on the bus and go and get a free skin cancer screening, which is great. They sell products, skincare products on the bus, as well as hats and things like that. And, you know, we are very interested in participating in that, as I said, education, research, and prevention to make sure that people have the information that they need about getting, you know, staying out of the sun and staying healthy.
And you're a certified B Corp. Could you touch upon that for a moment? Because I think that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, so about 5 years ago, we became certified as a B Corporation. And basically, what I understood at the time was that people do vote with their dollars. It makes a difference. People want to buy products that they feel good about. And one of the things that I feel strongly about is that we have transparency in environmental practices, that we have transparency in the employment practices, that we know that we're taking care of the planet and leaving it better than we found it. And I think for me, in this organization, I want to have a place where my employees love coming to work every day. They're happy to be a part of this organization. And so we wanted to really put our money where our mouth was and get behind the B Corp movement. And it's been really wonderful for us, because I think people know that we are valuing doing business for the good of the world and not just for profitability. It's putting, you know, sort of the philanthropy and the environmental things before profitability.
Well, and that's kind of a strong message that was important for me to share with the community. And it kind of coincides with what's going on with the pandemic and COVID. And what I mentioned at the beginning of the interview, where there are a lot of philanthropists or entrepreneurs that are saying, you know what, there's something more here for me, or what else can I do to give back? And you're leading your organization, and you're also doing your give back with PridePads. But I think that there's a foundation of giving back with kindness and love and compassion. And I just, you know, I think that I see that, I feel that. So my question to you is, for those entrepreneurs that are kind of sitting there thinking, what else is there? What can I do to have more meaning and purpose? Or how can I, you know, start to give back? Is there a direction you would give them, or thoughts or insights?
Yeah, I would certainly say to never stray away from things that your heart is interested in, because I think that the time we have here on this planet is short and we really should make the most of it. I think, this, I love Michael Franti. He's a musician and a friend of mine. As he says, this is not a dress rehearsal. You're not going to get another chance to do it again. So make the most of the time that you have here. And I think particularly in light of this pandemic, one of the messages that's coming home to everybody is to slow down, to really take time to appreciate the life that we have, to appreciate the fact that there is opportunity to help people who are less fortunate than us. And it doesn't matter if you do it internationally or you do it right here in your own backyard. There are so many ways that we can give back. And I feel like sometimes we do get lost in just running our businesses or the day-to-day grind of what it is that we do. But it's important to have a purpose in order to really, I think, feel some sense of accomplishment. And for me, it really does come in giving back in other ways, whether it's to my employees or to the PridePads project or to the Skin Cancer Research Project, donating time for those kinds of projects. I think it's really important.
I have a curiosity question for you. I just had a client leave the office right before this call, and she's kind of on this discovery path, trying to uncover her given talents and gifts and who she is at her core, so that she can build her business around that. So it's kind of timely. But I'm wondering, curiosity is, what were you doing when you were younger? Like 10 years old, 4th, 5th grade, before all the peer pressure and social influence. And the reason I ask that is we're hearing stories from so many people about that's kind of who they were at their core. And sometimes we go astray or focus on things because someone told us that's what we should do. And this is a great time to kind of do some personal reflection about back to when we were younger. I'm just wanted to know what you were doing.
Yeah, I think I was a very highly motivated person from a very young age, always had jobs. I had a paper route when I was a young girl. I was on the ski team. We would take the train up and go skiing on the weekends. And I always had a job. I, always had something to do. I never let the grass grow under my feet. And I think I always sort of appreciated the fact that I came from a position of, being somewhat lucky in my birthright, in the way that I was born into a good family living in Colorado. My father was a lawyer. My mother stayed home with our family. And I was able to, look and appreciate things. We were able to travel a lot. And I think through travel, we see the world through different eyes, because we really get to appreciate how different our lives are and how privileged we are. And so I think that always sort of cultivated in me this desire to help others and to bring change and to help bring awareness to people who are less fortunate than ourselves.
Well, and I picked up on something there, because you said your father was an attorney.
Yeah.
And you were an attorney. So it's kind of like you went down this path, perhaps, which I'm sure you are thankful for all that you learned and gained from that. But you turned it back around to more heart work.
Yeah, but I will say I'm the youngest of 4 children. I have 3 older brothers. None of them went into law. I was the only one that went into law. And interestingly enough, my father was a trust and estates lawyer and always had, he was such a good, he's still alive, and he's a very kind-hearted person who always really cared about his clients. And I think I really learned my work ethic and sort of the way that you treat people from watching him, with humility, but also with humor, and just a desire to kind of always give back. He always did a lot of pro bono work, and in fact started something in Colorado called it was part of the Colorado Legal Aid Foundation, called Lend a Lawyer, where you would actually take a lawyer from a city and put them in a rural community, and they would work there for a year. And I participated in that program for a year when I graduated from law school. And so, it's in large part thanks to my father, I think, that I.
Oh, that's a good story. Yeah. And it's interesting, because it's all that collection of our journey, of our experiences that make us who we are. And sometimes we just need to take that pause, that quiet time to understand that better. And I think, like you said, now's a good time to slow down and, and do that.
Yeah,
So,
and have a lot of gratitude, I think, for the fact that we all live where we live, that we have access to the resources that we do and the healthcare and the education, and then to really make it a priority to help people who are less fortunate, because I think this pandemic, if it does nothing else, it highlights the inequality around the globe in terms of people's access to healthcare and being able to survive the pandemic. I mean, I spend a lot of time in India doing yoga and meditation trainings, and I just came back from India actually in February, just before the coronavirus pandemic began. I can say I've never been so grateful to be back from a place like that, but I also have a lot of friends there who I know are suffering through this, and it's hard to watch and to know that, you know, we have resources here that are going to be different and that we will end up differently from this pandemic than they will. You know, it's heartbreaking. So it's important to everyone to do their part.
mm-hmm. Well, I want to thank you again for being our guest today, and great subject, just good for us to hear what's going on. And you've got your hat. I didn't bring mine in.
I've got my Wallaroo hat. I couldn't go without making a plug for your sun protection, Krista, because, you know, with that fair hair, and I know you're, so yeah.
I wanted to tell you too, I have a bunch of pictures from the weekend, because my granddaughter, I made sure she was completely covered, you know, the whole weekend at the beach. And we're in our Wallaroos, so I'll have to send those to you.
Well, thank you. Well, you know, I'd like to say it is a sunny life, and people need to remember we will get back to sunnier times here sometime in the near future, back to our new normal. And I will look so forward to keeping in touch with you and hopefully getting some of your viewers to, you know, get involved with PridePads or letting us know if they have questions.
So I have a slide here that has the website for PridePads, the organization, and also Wallaroo hats. So people can kind of check it out, see what it's all about, and get involved.
Great. Thank you, Krista, and thank you for, you know, having me as a presenter on this show. I really appreciate it. I think it's important for people to get these messages and know how they can get involved, making a difference.
That's terrific. Thank you so much. Take care.
Yeah, thank you. Bye. Thank you. See you soon. Bye.
So I want to thank everyone for joining us today. You know, it's tough times, I think, for a lot of people. There's a lot of uncertainty and stress, and it's great to hear a good story and a give back story, and a reminder to be grateful and thankful for what we have and being able to give that back to others. So I hope you enjoyed the show today and can share this information with some of your friends and colleagues as well. Stay tuned every Wednesday at 2. Just a forewarning, we're going to be moving to a new platform soon. And in order to have access to our show, you'll have to be following us on Facebook or our YouTube channel. So the Krista Moore YouTube channel, as well as Facebook. If you follow us, then you'll get our live shows every Wednesday at 2. And so we'll be live streaming to multiple locations, and they'll be recorded for later listening. You can check us out on YouTube for past recordings, as well as our Go-To Stage, which is another platform that has our past shows on it. So I want to thank you again for joining us and enjoying Stephanie Carter today. And take care. And, you know, we'll see you next week. Thank you.
And we're back.